Hey guys, tonight we're sailing back 2,000 years. The air thick with salt and honey, the horizon painted gold and purple, and the hum of the Mediterranean rolling beneath your feet. You're not just watching history tonight, you're walking straight into it. Specifically, into the city that once claimed to hold the world's knowledge, its beauty, and its most dangerous woman. Welcome to Alexandria, Jewel of the Nile. And just between us, you probably won't survive this court alive, but hey, it'll make a good bedtime story. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and your local time in the comments. I want to see where in the world this ship is docking tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ship rocks gently as you stand at the bow. The scent of Egypt hits before the sight of it. A blend of papyrus smoke, roasted dates, and the strange electric tang of the Nile's breath. The sky is turning amber, that hour when everything seems dipped in honey. The harbor rises ahead like a dream sculpted out of marble and heat. Alexandria, the lighthouse, Pharos, towers impossibly tall. A finger of flame guiding ships from half the known world. You squint, and for a second, it feels like it's staring back at you. You're not alone. Around you, sailors shout in half a dozen languages: Greek, Egyptian, Aramaic, something Roman. The docks are chaos incarnate. Crates of ivory, live monkeys, wine amphory sweating under the sun. A boy with a shaved head and a lotus tattoo whistles as he runs past, balancing scrolls higher than his head. Somewhere, a woman's laughter drifts from a tavern. Alexandria never sleeps, they say, it just changes masks. A guard approaches, linen skirt crisp, bronze shining. Name? He asks. You give him the one you were told to use. He nods once, gestures to the great causeway ahead. Behind him, the palace district gleams, where Cleopatra herself waits. You can almost feel the heat of power in the air. A mix of fear and perfume. Your sandals tap over white stone as you move deeper into the city. Every corner seems carved for spectacle. Marble columns etched with hieroglyphs that whisper older names, murals of blue and gold. It's a city born from Alexander's dream, raised by Ptolemies, and ruled now by a woman more clever than all of them, Cleopatra VII. The name alone is half legend, half rumor. You pass the marketplace, loud, dizzying. Merchants cry out, offering pearls from the Red Sea, and dates, as sweet as love. A scholar in a faded robe argues with a priest about whether the earth circles the sun or the other way around. Scholars still argue whether Alexandria's library truly held that debate or if the story was later Roman invention. But it's nice to imagine it, isn't it? That here, in this noisy heat, ideas collided like wine cups. You pause near a fountain shaped like a coiled cobra. The water glints, too clear to be real. A child tosses a coin and whispers a wish. You can't help but think. In a city like this, even water seems to know its worth. A camel growls nearby, annoyed. The driver spits, muttering about taxes. You smirk, some things never change. Taxes, politics, and people pretending to be unimpressed by beauty. Alexandria is beautiful, but it knows it, like Cleopatra herself, if whispers are true. The closer you get to the palace, the quieter it becomes. The streets widen. Statues of Isis and Alexander flank the way like silent judges. The smell shifts again. From street dust to lotus, from sweat to sandalwood. A eunuch waits at a gate of gold and turquoise. His eyes flicker across your face, weighing your worth. Then he bows slightly. You're inside. The courtyard stretches vast and silent, the sky now bleeding into twilight. Palm shadows stretch like fingers across mosaic floors. Musicians somewhere tune lutes, soft and uncertain, the way a heartbeat hesitates before it begins. You catch your reflection in the polished stone. Sunburned, wide-eyed, half believing this is real. The strange. In this place, time feels elastic. You could blink and the world would skip a century. One mainstream fact: Alexandria, in this very age, holds the greatest library mankind ever built. scrolls from Persia, Greece, India, maybe even China. And yet, you're told that half the scribes here can't sleep at night for fear of fire. Fire that could erase everything. You think about that, knowledge always one spark away from silence. Fitting, maybe, for a queen whose mind burns brighter than her jewels. A servant appears, silent as a breeze. He offers you a goblet, something cold and sweet, wine mixed with crushed pomegranate. You take a sip and it tastes like danger disguised as fruit. He gestures for you to follow. As you walk through the grand halls, murals tell stories in gold and lapis. Gods embracing mortals, serpents crowned like kings, and Cleopatra herself painted beside Caesar, the Roman she loved or used, depending who you ask. The air hums faintly with music and murmured plans. Somewhere, someone laughs, that high, practiced laugh of those who know they're being watched. There's a faint chill under the marble now, the kind that crawls up from deep inside stone, like a reminder that beauty always hides a price. You reach a long corridor lined with torches. Their flames bend in the breeze, making the shadows dance. A pair of guards open a door at the end, nodding without a word. The scent of lotus and myrrh grows stronger. Somewhere inside, the queen's voice drifts, soft and playful, speaking in Egyptian, the native tongue no Ptolemy before her dared to use in public. It's a strange, thrilling thought. A monarch who makes empires kneel but still prays to the old gods in her mother's language. Scholars still argue whether Cleopatra was more Greek or Egyptian. Blood versus belief. But tonight, as her voice echoes down the marble, she feels entirely Egyptian, entirely herself. The servant pauses before another door. "The queen will see you after the sunset meal," he whispers. Then, with the ghost of a smile, adds, "You'll remember this night until your last." The door closes behind him, leaving you in a small chamber lit by oil lamps. You can hear faint music from beyond, harps, laughter, the clinking of gold. You lean against the wall, breath steady, heartbeat quick. The scent of lotus thickens, dizzying. You're not sure if it's perfume or spell. Outside, Alexandria hums softly. The stars appear, cautious, one by one, above the sea. Somewhere far below, waves lap against the palace stones, murmuring secrets to anyone willing to listen. You wonder if Cleopatra listens too. The night stretches ahead, glittering, dangerous, intoxicating. The kind of night where history doesn't wait to be written. It simply happens, and you somehow have wandered right into it. The sun has barely slipped beneath the horizon when the palace awakens into something else. Not louder, but deeper. The air itself seems to hum. You step through the archway toward Cleopatra's private court, and for a moment, you can't tell where the marble ends and the light begins. Torches ripple like gold snakes along the walls, and between them, painted eyes of long-dead pharaohs watch your every move. The scent of burning myrrh clings to the air, sweet, heavy, almost narcotic. You can taste it when you breathe. Somewhere in the distance, a harp sighs. The notes stretch and fade like silk across your skin. You follow the sound down a hall that opens into the great hall of the Ptolemies, and your steps slow without meaning to. The palace is enormous, a world unto itself. Ceilings vanish into shadow, and pillars carved like papyrus stalks hold up an invisible sky. Servants drift by, barefoot, their linen whispering against the marble. A few glance at you, the brief, curious flick of eyes that measure whether you belong here. You don't, of course. No one truly belongs here except her. A woman passes with a bronze bowl balanced on her head, steam rising from whatever magic it holds. You think it might be incense or poison. She doesn't look up. You reach the inner courtyard, open to the night but surrounded by pale columns. The first stars blink awake above the garden, and the pool in the center mirrors them perfectly, a constellation trapped in water. You can hear the Nile faintly beyond the walls, steady and eternal, like a slow heartbeat beneath the city. And then you see it, the palace at twilight. The marble seems alive, breathing color as torches flare and fade. Walls shimmer with inlaid lapis, malachite, and mother of pearl. Gold threads catch the last light like liquid fire. It's not just architecture. It's theater. The kind of beauty that doesn't invite admiration. It demands surrender. You pause under a colonnade half-hidden, watching. Slaves scatter rose petals along the walkways. Musicians tune their lyres. Courtiers gather like exotic birds. Their robes bright. Their whispers brighter. Politics disguised as laughter. A man drops a grape, and two servants scramble to pick it up before it hits the floor. And through it all, you feel her presence, though you haven't seen her yet. Cleopatra. It's in the rhythm of footsteps, the cautious tone of every voice, the way the torches burn just a little brighter near her chambers. She isn't here yet, but she's everywhere. You wander toward a balcony overlooking the harbor. The Pharos lighthouse burns steadily in the distance, its flame visible even now, defiant against dusk. A servant beside you murmurs something about Caesar, how he once stood here too, watching ships arrive with his Roman arrogance. Scholars still argue whether Cleopatra truly hosted him in this very hall or in a smaller villa nearby. Either way, the story lives on because in this place, history doesn't just happen, it rehearses itself. You lean against the railing, and the stone is warm under your hands. The sea wind carries the smell of salt and spice, but also something else, a sweetness, faint but deliberate. You realize it's everywhere. The faint perfume of blue lotus, the flower of the Nile, the scent Cleopatra is rumored to bathe in. People say the queen could be smelled before she was seen. You smile. Subtlety was never Egypt's style. Somewhere behind you, a gong sounds. Low, slow, deliberate. The start of the evening banquet. The court begins to move as one. A murmuring tide of silk and gold. You step back through the columns, into the corridors now lit by oil lamps that paint everything amber. A boy, no older than 12, bows before you, holding out a carved wooden tray. On it rests a goblet of wine the color of rubies. You take it, sip carefully. Tastes like fruit and smoke and secrets. The boy vanishes before you can thank him. You follow the sound of music, now louder, steadier, rhythmic. The kind of rhythm that makes even footsteps seem rehearsed. You walk past a wall mural of Isis nursing the infant Horus. For a second, under the flickering light, it looks almost alive. A group of women in sheer linen glide past, carrying tall silver pitchers. They move in silence, eyes lowered. One glances at you for the briefest moment, and in her gaze, something sharp glints, like a warning or a dare. You're not sure which. You keep walking. The hall opens into another courtyard, smaller, quieter, ringed with palm trees whose fronds murmur in the night breeze. A fountain shaped like a lion trickles softly in the center. You pause there, watching how moonlight catches the ripples. The palace is both opulent and eerie, too perfect, like a dream that knows it's being watched. Then, footsteps behind you. A servant clears his throat softly. The queen will receive the court shortly, he says. You will wait by the banquet hall in trance. You nod. He leads you down another corridor, where golden sconces flicker against the painted faces of ancestors. The faces follow you as you pass, or maybe it's just the firelight playing tricks. You reach a grand pair of bronze doors, etched with the story of Egypt's gods. The servant gestures for you to stand aside, and you do. He disappears through the doors, leaving you alone with the muffled thrum of music and chatter from within. You take a slow breath. Even here, away from the sea breeze, the scent of lotus lingers. You wonder if it's soaked into the palace stones by now, or into history itself. It's strange how quickly comfort and fear blend in this place. The marble floor cool beneath your sandals, the torches flickering low, the sound of laughter muffled and distant. It's all too beautiful, and beauty always hides something. You catch sight of your reflection in a polished bronze shield hanging nearby. You look different, softer, dimly lit, caught between awe and apprehension. A guest at the edge of greatness or danger or both. Behind those bronze doors, a queen is preparing to enter her own legend. And whether you're ready or not, you're about to walk into it with her. The guards shift slightly. One glances your way. The great doors begin to open, The light spills out first, warm, golden, alive. Then the music swells, strings and flutes weaving together like smoke. You can almost feel the weight of 100 eyes waiting. And as you take a step forward, into the glow of Cleopatra's court, you understand something simple and terrifying. This palace isn't just a building. It's a heartbeat, and you're standing inside it. The scent hits you first, richer now, almost tangible. Myrrh, cinnamon, honey, and something deeper you can't name. The kind of aroma that isn't meant to please, it's meant to command. You take a slow breath as you step into the hall, and it feels like inhaling history itself. Every sound, the strum of a lyre, the rustle of silk, the delicate clink of jewelry, seems amplified. The marble floor gleams beneath the torchlight, reflecting fragments of gold, wine-red cushions, and 100 pairs of watching eyes. The air is warm, heavy with perfume and expectation. You're in the heart of power, and it smells intoxicating. You follow a servant through rows of low couches arranged in a semicircle. On each, courtiers lounge as though their spines have forgotten the concept of humility. They sip from crystal goblets and speak in lazy Greek, Egyptian, and the soft Latin of foreign guests. Their laughter rises and falls like waves, calculated, never spontaneous. Your guide stops near a tall bronze brazier. He bows slightly, signaling that this is where you wait. You try not to stare, but it's impossible not to. The room itself feels alive. Flickering torchlight dances over painted ceilings, carved gods watch from the walls, and in every corner, something glitters. A dagger's hilt, a jeweled sandal, an earring shaped like a tiny ASP. A musician plucks a slow melody on the harp. You don't recognize the tune, but it feels like a warning disguised as a lullaby. Nearby, a noblewoman leans toward her companion. She mixes the oils herself, she whispers, eyes darting toward the far doors. No two nights smell the same. The scent of power. That's what it is, the art of being unforgettable. One mainstream historical fact slips quietly into your mind. Cleopatra was known to create her own perfumes in a royal workshop near the Nile, blending lotus, rose, and myrrh. Roman chroniclers obsessed over it, baffled that a queen could weaponize aroma. Scholars still argue whether her legendary perfume ships were true or clever myth. Vessels that supposedly sailed with sails soaked in oil so her arrival could be smelled miles before seen. You try to imagine it. A horizon scented with power. A servant passes offering figs stuffed with nuts and honey. You take one without thinking. The sweetness melts on your tongue, almost dizzying. You glance around. Everyone here looks serene, but you sense the undercurrent. Every glance a negotiation, every sip of wine a test. The hall hushes. It's subtle at first. The music softens. The murmurs fall away like sand through fingers. Then you feel it again, that shift in the air like a storm changing direction. The tall bronze doors at the end of the hall open slowly. You don't see her yet, but you feel her entrance before you witness it. Incense smoke drifts through the air, thin, golden, and alive. Behind it, a line of attendants steps in, each carrying a golden lamp. They move in silence, light trembling in their hands. And then, between them, she appears. Cleopatra. The room doesn't breathe. She isn't dressed like a goddess. Not exactly. That would be too easy. Instead, she wears simplicity as armor. A gown of sheer white linen bound with gold at the waist, her skin glinting under oil and jewels. Her crown is small, almost modest, a serpent coiled above her brow. The symbolism is not lost on anyone. Beauty that strikes. Her eyes sweep the hall, calm and deliberate. Every person they pass lowers their gaze just enough to show respect, but not so much to seem terrified. You can tell it's a practiced balance. When her gaze flicks over you, your pulse stutters. She doesn't pause, doesn't smile, but for half a second, you feel as if the air itself has taken notice. She takes her place on a low couch draped in purple and gold. Around her, the hum of the room returns, softly, hesitantly, as though the world had been holding its breath. The musicians begin again, but slower now, in rhythm with her heartbeat. A servant kneels beside her, offering a cup carved from obsidian. She sips, then leans back, one arm resting along the couch, posture both effortless and deliberate. Her voice, when she finally speaks, is low and warm, a tone meant for poetry, not politics. Yet somehow it manages both. "You've all come early," she says, amusement curling around her words. "That's never a good sign." Laughter ripples through the room. Genuine this time, though tinged with nerves. You find yourself smiling before you realize it. Cleopatra gestures lightly, and the banquet begins. Servants move like clockwork, carrying trays of roasted duck glazed in honey, baskets of grapes, bowls of olives. The smell of spices fills the room until it feels thick enough to taste. You catch a snippet of conversation near you. Two men whispering in Greek. She reads 10 languages, they say. One mutters, speaks to each envoy in his own tongue. The other scoffs softly. If that's true, then her tongue is the sharpest weapon in Egypt. You bite back a grin. The sarcasm would have earned applause in any modern comment section. As you eat, you glance toward the queen again. She's laughing with a Roman official. Not too loudly, just enough to let everyone know she's amused. Her hands move gracefully when she speaks, each gesture deliberate, the way a musician might shape sound. And yet, beneath the laughter and light, you sense calculation, the awareness of being both adored and hunted. You look around. Every guest here is entranced, willingly orbiting her gravity. You can't help but think of something Plutarch once wrote. Her beauty was not unmatched, but her presence was irresistible. Scholars still debate if that line was admiration or warning. Your eyes drift upward, to the flicker of torchlight painting the ceiling with restless shadows. You imagine those shadows whispering stories. Of Caesar's ghost, of Roman ambition, of destiny weaving itself quietly in silk and smoke. You exhale slowly. The scent of lotus and wine lingers, heavy and alive. You realize that in this court, every detail, from the flicker of flame to the tilt of a cup, is part of her control. Even the air obeys her. A servant refills your wine, eyes lowered. Somewhere behind you, laughter rises again. Sharper this time, too polished to be real. And for just a moment, the perfume, the warmth, the gold, it all feels like camouflage. You're in a world built to dazzle, but beneath it lies something colder, older, waiting. The queen's gaze lifts again, scanning the room. You feel it pass over you, light as silk, heavy as a curse. And then she smiles. It's not for you, but God's, it feels like it might be. The laughter lingers in the air like incense smoke. Soft, deliberate, calculated. You can't help but notice how every sound in this room seems to bend toward her. Even the musicians, plucking their strings with weary grace, time their pauses to Cleopatra's breath. You shift slightly on your cushion, half tasting the roasted duck, half tasting the tension beneath the sweetness. Around you, golden plates gleam under oil lamps. Pomegranates split open like tiny suns. Honey drips in slow ribbons across polished silver. The feast is a spectacle, but you sense it's only half about food. This is politics served with a side of seduction. You lift your cup again, pretending to drink as you observe. The courtiers laugh at something a little too loudly. The Roman guest across from you, broad-shouldered, sunburned, oozing self-importance, dabs wine from his chin and gestures while speaking. His accent cuts through the music like a bronze blade. He's talking about ships, grain, taxes, the empire that feeds itself on Egypt's harvest. You can see the way Cleopatra listens. Eyes narrow, lips curved just slightly. Not smiling, calculating. You wonder, fleetingly, what she's thinking. Does she measure every man she meets in drachmas or in usefulness? A servant brings a fresh platter of figs, and as she passes, her golden anklet jingles softly. Cleopatra turns her head at the sound, the faintest tilt, and you catch her profile, the smooth line of her jaw, the faint sheen of oil on her skin. She doesn't need jewels to command the room. She is one. You take another sip of wine, though it's mostly to hide your awe. Do you find the feast satisfactory? A voice murmurs beside you. It's a young woman, perhaps a translator or scribe, her Greek fluent, her smile professional. "It's extraordinary," you reply quietly, "though I'm beginning to suspect it's less about eating and more about watching." She chuckles softly. "You learn quickly. In this palace, appetite is a weapon." The words hang between you, almost lost under the music. But you file them away. A wave of laughter breaks from the far end of the hall. Cleopatra's laughter, low, melodic, unhurried, joins it. You look up in time to see her raise a goblet toward a man seated 2 couches away, the Roman guest. "You Romans boast of your discipline," she teases in Greek smooth as silk. "Yet I've never met one who can resist my table." The crowd laughs, warm, practiced, a chorus of flattery. The Roman, tall, with sharp lines carved by too many campaigns, grins. "And I've never met a queen who uses her kitchen as a battlefield." The hall hums with amusement. You can feel the tension shift again. A subtle dance of wit and dominance. It's not conversation. It's fencing. Cleopatra leans forward slightly, resting her chin on her hand. "Perhaps that's why we get along," she says. "We both understand conquest." The Roman smile falters just slightly, and you catch it. Everyone does. But Cleopatra only sips her wine, eyes never leaving his. The musicians pick up a livelier tune. Servants glide between the guests with trays of roasted quail, dates soaked in honey, and bread still warm from the ovens. The smell of spice and fruit blends into something hypnotic. She chuckles softly. "You learn quickly. In this palace, appetite is a weapon." The words hang between you, almost lost under the music. But you file them away. A wave of laughter breaks from the far end of the hall. Cleopatra's laughter, low, melodic, unhurried, joins it. You look up in time to see her raise a goblet toward a man seated 2 couches away, the Roman guest. "You Romans boast of your discipline," she teases in Greek smooth as silk. "Yet I've never met one who can resist my table." The crowd laughs, warm, practiced, a chorus of flattery. The Roman, tall, with sharp lines carved by too many campaigns, grins. "And I've never met a queen who uses her kitchen as a battlefield." The hall hums with amusement. You can feel the tension shift again. A subtle dance of wit and dominance. It's not conversation. It's fencing. Cleopatra leans forward slightly, resting her chin on her hand. "Perhaps that's why we get along," she says. "We both understand conquest." The Roman smile falters just slightly, and you catch it. Everyone does. But Cleopatra only sips her wine, eyes never leaving his. The musicians pick up a livelier tune. Servants glide between the guests with trays of roasted quail, dates soaked in honey, and bread still warm from the ovens. The smell of spice and fruit blends into something hypnotic. Cleopatra gestures lightly, and another servant refills her goblet. The gold snake bracelet coiled around her wrist glints in the lamplight, scales catching fire. "Have you ever noticed," she says as if musing to herself, "how a serpent never needs to announce itself? It simply moves, and the world moves with it." A murmur of agreement ripples through the guests, though you doubt anyone truly knows how to respond. One mainstream historical fact drifts into your mind like smoke. Cleopatra's royal symbol was indeed the cobra, the uraeus, representing divine authority, life and death in one graceful shape. Scholars still argue whether she consciously used it as psychological warfare or simply to continue the pharaonic tradition. Either way, it worked. The queen rises from her couch, her movements unhurried but decisive. She doesn't need to command silence. It falls naturally, like a curtain. She raises her goblet. "To the Nile," she says softly. "To the river that feeds empires, even those who forget to thank it." A murmur of toasts follows, and goblets rise like stars catching light. You lift yours too, though your hand trembles just slightly. When you drink, the wine tastes stronger, darker, almost metallic. You wonder if it's from the cup, or from the thought that every person here could poison another and call it hospitality. The queen lowers her goblet and smiles, but her eyes, for the briefest heartbeat, look tired. Not weak, never that, but human. The kind of exhaustion that comes from knowing the world watches and waits for your first mistake. And then she turns, nodding slightly to her attendants. The night is still young, she says. Let's see if Rome can keep up with Egypt. Music bursts alive again. Drums, flutes, tambourines. Servants sweep in with trays of wine and sweets. Dancers appear from the shadows like mirages. You lean back, dizzy from sound and scent. The feast rages on, but your focus lingers on the queen. The serpent crowned in gold, smiling as she controls the storm she's summoned. You think to yourself, half amused, half entranced. No wonder even Rome couldn't resist her. The music softens, a ripple of harp strings and lazy drums echoing through the marble hall. You realize the crowd has shifted, almost imperceptibly, to make way for her. Cleopatra is standing now, framed by the lamplight, her silhouette casting ripples of gold across the polished floor. You feel the hush before you see her move. She doesn't walk. She arrives. Every gesture is deliberate, practiced through 1,000 repetitions. The tilt of her chin, the slow sway of fabric, the faint perfume that trails her like a rumor. It's the kind of entrance that rewrites the air. You've heard stories about her. How men from Rome to Persia called her sorceress. How poets swore her eyes could command the tides. But watching her now, you realize it isn't magic. It's mastery. You blink, and suddenly, she's closer. She's draped in deep lapis blue, the color of the Nile at dusk. Gold threads shimmer through the cloth like veins of sunlight. Her jewelry isn't excessive, that's the power move. The crowned serpent glints at her brow, coiled and ready, its jeweled eyes catching the torchlight. When she turns her head, every servant freezes mid-step. Cleopatra moves through the hall like she's conducting invisible music. A Roman senator starts to stand, too quickly, and she lifts a hand. Just one. He stops halfway, caught between reverence and fear. You almost smile. She knows exactly what she's doing. She reaches the central dais, where a carved throne waits, sleek, simple, intimidating in its restraint. As she sits, she gestures for the harpists to stop. Too loud, she says softly, almost teasing. Let the night breathe. And suddenly it does. You can hear the Nile outside, faint waves slapping against stone. A bird cries once in the dark. The distant sound of horses along the palace road drifts through the open doors. She lets the silence settle, heavy and intentional. Then, with a faint smile, she looks around the hall. Do you ever wonder, she begins, how sound travels across the river at night? The same way gossip does, I imagine, slower, but far more dangerous. Laughter uneasy but obedient. She continues, I hear things. About Rome. About friends who forget to write. Her eyes flicker toward the Roman guest. About new alliances, forged under the guise of old promises. The Roman, the same man who'd sparred with her earlier, shifts slightly, his smile tightening. You feel the air change again, the feast turning from indulgence to interrogation. Cleopatra leans forward, elbows on knees, voice lowering to a purr. Tell me, General, what do they whisper of me in your Senate these days? That I charm men? That I poison them? That I can't possibly rule without a Roman to guide me? The man clears his throat, caught between diplomacy and discomfort. They speak of your brilliance, Majesty. She laughs. Not mockingly, not yet. Brilliance, she repeats, rolling the word in her mouth like a fruit pit. A convenient compliment. It flatters without conceding power. You glance around. No one dares move. Even the wine pourers have gone still, pitchers hovering midair. Then she softens, leaning back with a sigh. But I suppose that's the way of empires. You build them on flattery, feed them with fear. The room exhales. You notice now what few do. Her eyes keep darting, subtle, sharp. She's not looking for applause. She's measuring loyalty. A mainstream historical fact slips through your mind like a whispered note. Historians describe Cleopatra not as the most beautiful woman, but as the most captivating. Ancient coins show a sharp nose, strong jaw, not the softness poets later invented. Scholars still argue whether her power lay in beauty or intellect, but you're beginning to think it was neither. It was the silence between her words. As the feast resumes, servants pour spiced wine into crystal cups, and you're handed a small dish, a fig wrapped in honey-soaked petals. You bite, and it tastes both sweet and dangerous. The queen's voice returns, smooth as oil. "You," she says suddenly. It takes you a second to realize she's talking to you. Every eye turns your way. You swallow hard, nearly choking on the figure. "Majesty." Her lips twitch. "You're new to my court. You've been watching, listening. Tell me, what do you think of Egypt?" Your mind races. There's no right answer here, only the least fatal one. You take a breath. "I think Egypt is alive. It listens when others speak, but never forgets who it is." The silence that follows feels eternal. Then Cleopatra smiles. "Alive?" she repeats softly. "Yes, you understand." Relief floods through you so strongly it almost makes you lightheaded. She gestures to her attendants. "Bring our guest another cup. Anyone who can see Egypt must be allowed to taste her too." The hall chuckles, low, approving, nervous. The Roman forces a grin. You catch the queen's gaze again, and for just a heartbeat, she looks tired. There's something behind the poise. A quiet, buried ache. Maybe the cost of being myth while still alive. The feast begins to thin. Courtiers drift toward the courtyards, laughter softening into murmurs. Musicians resume, quieter now, gentle strings echoing off the marble. Cleopatra remains seated, staring past the columns toward the dark horizon beyond the palace. You realize she's looking at the Nile again. "Do you know?" she says suddenly, though you're not sure if it's to you or the air. "The river remembers everything that touches it. Blood, perfume, ships, even love. It carries all of it to the sea." You say nothing. The weight of her words settles somewhere between your ribs. She stands, slow, graceful. "Enjoy the music," she says over her shoulder. "The night is long, and history moves quietly when no one is watching." Then she's gone, slipping through a curtain of silk and shadow. You're left staring at the place where she stood, half expecting her to reappear. But she doesn't. Only the river answers, its soft voice threading through the open arches, whispering secrets no empire can ever drown. The night has faded, and the last torches of Alexandria burn down to quiet embers. You sit alone now, the air still heavy with the ghost of incense and laughter long gone. Somewhere, the Nile sighs against the shore. A slow, steady rhythm, like the world remembering to breathe. You think of her, the queen who once made empires tremble with a glance. You picture the way the moonlight slid across her crown, how her voice could command both armies and silence. And yet, in the end, she was only human, a woman who dared to shape her story before others wrote it for her. The palace is asleep now. The marble is cool beneath your fingers. The gold has lost its glow, but the river still moves, calm, eternal, forgiving. You exhale, finally letting go of the tension that carried you through her court. Close your eyes. The scent of lotus still hangs in the air, faint but real. You can almost hear the soft ripple of silk, the distant hum of a harp tuning itself for tomorrow's songs. Let it fade. Let the noise of history dissolve into quiet. You made it through the night, through power, through poison, through the endless gaze of a queen who never blinked first. Now it's just you and the river. Breathe. Slow, deep, and easy. The sands shift, the stars dim, and the story drifts out to sea. Just another whisper carried by time. You've survived Cleopatra's court. Rest easy, traveler. Outside, the wind stirs again. You hear the faint clang of a metal gate somewhere down the street, followed by the whisper of leaves. Inside, Gaius finally exhales, his face softening into sleep. For a moment he looks young again, free of worry. The servant sighs too, the rhythm of his breath joining his master's. You feel the room tilt gently toward stillness, the kind that only comes when two tired souls finally give in. And yet, as you step back into the corridor, you know the city beyond is still awake somewhere. The drunk, the lover, the soldier on watch, the insomniac scholar tracing letters by candlelight, all of them chasing the same illusion of rest. You whisper to yourself as you step out through the open gate, "Sleep well, Gaius. You've earned it." The door creaks shut behind you. The statue of Somnus outside gleams faintly in the moonlight, as if listening. For a moment you think you hear it breathe. The river fades behind you as the city exhales one last time. You wander upward through narrow alleys, past sleeping dogs, silent courtyards, and the occasional flicker of a dying lamp. The sky above is softening now, still dark, but hinting at the pale blue that will soon bleed into morning. You stop once, turning back to look at the rooftops of Rome. Thousands of lives beneath them, all finally at rest. The bakers, the slaves, the nobles, the guards. Every one of them wrapped in dreams that will vanish with the first shout of the marketplace. You breathe in the cold air. It smells faintly of smoke, stone, and something sweet, like the world's oldest lullaby still drifting through time. For a moment, you let yourself imagine that you're part of it. Another shadow in the city. Another restless soul chasing sleep without clocks, without noise, without light. Just the pulse of the night and the warmth of your own breath. You walk slower now. Your steps echo softly against the stones, a rhythm that almost sounds like a heartbeat. Rome is quiet. Even the gods seem to have closed their eyes. Somewhere, a single rooster stirs, confused by the dim horizon. A breeze moves through the olive trees beyond the walls. The stars fade one by one, like embers cooling after a long fire. And as the first thread of dawn unfurls across the sky, you realize nothing has really changed. You could open your eyes right now, in your own room, centuries later, and hear the same quiet hum of the world turning. The same breath of wind through the window, the same calm. So you do. You inhale deeply. You let your shoulders sink. The story dissolves around you, like mist leaving the river. You're safe. You're warm. You've wandered far enough for one night. Now close your eyes, traveler. The Romans are asleep, the river is still, and the city is whispering your name. Softly, gently, the way old stories end. Good night. Sweet dreams. You wake to the sound of shears snipping and something soft brushing your cheek. For a moment, you think it's snow drifting in through the roof vent. But no, it's wool. Tufts of it. Piles upon piles scattered across the floor like clouds that forgot how to float. The longhouse smells of lanolin and smoke. A group of women sit in a circle near the fire, spinning wool into thread with simple drop spindles. Their fingers move with hypnotic precision, twisting, pulling, looping. You can hear the faint whir as each spindle spins and then stills. One of them glances up. "You sleep light," she says with a smile. "Most don't wake until we've filled the room with sheep." You grin back. It's hard to miss the sound of an entire flock being turned into sweaters. She laughs. "Sweaters." She shakes her head. "We make tunics, mittens, ropes, sails. Anything that keeps us alive. You'll learn." And you do. You sit with them for a while, feeling the wool between your fingers. It's coarse, sticky with oil, but strangely comforting. The repetitive motion feels ancient, like a rhythm built into the bones. Twist, pull, loop, breathe. A young girl joins the circle, dragging a fur bundle behind her. When she opens it, you see pelts, seal, fox, and reindeer. The women begin to inspect them, fingers gliding along the fur like musicians tuning instruments. One of them holds up a reindeer hide, admiring the thickness. "This one will keep someone breathing through February," she murmurs. The older woman beside her grunts approval. "If the seams don't freeze." That's something you hadn't thought about, clothing freezing while you're wearing it. The damp air, the snow that melts and refreezes, the breath that turns to frost on fabric. Every stitch has to anticipate the weather's cruelty. There's no hurry, no complaint, just flow. The way these people work together feels seamless, almost choreographed. You begin to realize that community here isn't a choice. It's a necessity. The longhouse functions like a single living body, every part moving to keep the rest alive. Later, as evening settles, or whatever passes for evening in a world without sunlight, you notice a man sitting by the fire, repairing his boots with a strip of sinew. He gestures for you to join him. These, he says, tapping the boots, are more important than a sword. You raise an eyebrow. Really? He grins. You can't fight frostbite with steel. He shows you how to smear seal fat into the leather to keep it supple. The smell is memorable, but the idea makes sense. You can feel the warmth radiating from his freshly treated boots, a faint sheen catching the firelight. Once, he says almost proudly, I wore these through a whole winter storm and came out with all 10 toes. You laugh. A true hero's tale. He nods gravely. Exactly. You sit there together, the fire crackling, the smell of wool and smoke wrapping around you like a blanket. It strikes you how mundane all this is, and yet how deeply noble. No raids, no battles, no grand feasts. Just hands moving through cold air, creating something soft enough to outlast the night. The older woman from earlier hums again, this time slower, almost like a lullaby. Her voice carries through the longhouse, mingling with the rhythm of spinning wheels and the occasional sigh of wind against the walls. And for the first time, you realize that warmth here isn't just heat. It's harmony. It's the sound of threads pulling tight, the smell of fat on leather, the laughter between stitches. When you finally lie down, you pull a wool blanket over yourself, rough but reassuring. You think of her words again. Wool remembers warmth. You hope that's true, because tonight, it feels like you'll need every memory it has. Outside, the snow keeps falling, erasing the world in silence. Inside, the longhouse glows, a single ember of human stubbornness burning against the endless dark. The storm has finally passed. Outside, the air hangs still, heavy with the scent of thawing snow. The village lies quiet. No hammering, no laughter, no whisper of work, just peace. You step out into the pale light, the kind that doesn't quite know if it's morning or evening. The sky glows soft gray, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you can see the faint rim of the sun crawling along the horizon. Your breath fogs and fades. Behind you, the longhouse hums faintly. Wood settling, embers sighing, lives continuing. The runes on the beams, the threads on the loom, the furs drying by the fire. All still there, waiting for another season. You realize that nothing about this place is truly gone. The warmth of the hearth, the rhythm of work, the quiet trust between neighbors. It lingers, woven into the air like invisible cloth. The Vikings may have survived their endless nights with fish oil and fur, but what really kept them alive was gentler. Shared stories, familiar hands, the promise that even the darkest winter eventually breaks. You tilt your head back and close your eyes. The world feels slower now, softer. The wind brushes your cheek like a memory. You think of everything you've seen. The runes, the laughter, the whispers to the restless dead, and realize it's all part of the same heartbeat. The same defiance against cold and silence. And as that faint sun edges higher, you feel it too. The quiet relief of surviving the long night. Now breathe deep. Let the last traces of the fire fade in your mind. The Vikings are gone, but their warmth remains, flickering softly in you. End of script. Sweet dreams.